Welcome to Perspectives from the Sky on this ninth day of September 2023. We've been gone for a while. We're back. We were on a vacation and now we're back on the air and we're going to go back to our regular schedule. So, what's going on today? Well, Venus went back direct last Sunday, September 3rd. For a while, for about 10 days, Venus and Mercury were both retrograde. And, since Venus is about relating and Mercury is about communicating and relating, it was rough for a lot of people. And it still is because Mercury is still retrograde. So, the advice all the time is, like a lot of times things are really confusing when you're looking to make a decision during Mercury retrograde. And maybe even sometimes you get inspired and like you want to go with what you're inspired by. But it's still good to like come back down, realize it's Mercury retrograde, and do your best to delay the decision until after it goes back direct, which in this case is the 15th of September. That's next Friday. And then it's good to wait like maybe another week if you can to allow Mercury to go back to its normal speed and then make the decision or start the big project. Now, I know that sometimes life doesn't allow that. Like you got to make a decision right now. And if that's the case, then, do your best. Do your best. If it's the kind of case where you have no choice, usually making that decision is okay because it's like fate. It's like got to be done. But if you can wait, that is the best way to go. But I know a lot of people have had a lot of stress lately with the retrograde planets. And there's been a lot of planets retrograde, and there still are. So with the retrograde, and so many retrograde, I mean, you would realize overall, retrograde means, something, rewind, retrace, reflect. Not a good time for forward motion. Gonna have to wait on that forward motion for a while. So Mercury actually goes direct 1:21 p.m. Pacific and 4:21 p.m. Eastern on the 15th of September. That's next Friday. Along with that Mercury direct, there's a new moon. There's a new moon on the 14th at 6:40 p.m. Pacific and at 9:40 p.m. Eastern. And that new moon in Virgo will be opposite Neptune that day. Not super close, about 5 or 6 degrees away from being exactly opposite that new moon. But in some ways that's good, in some ways that's bad. Okay. I mean, the good is with the Virgo energy, sometimes it can be like so much racking your brain, analyzing something or trying to figure something out. And sometimes with the Virgo energy, because you want to get it just right, you want to get it perfect, it can be very stressful. So with Neptune in the picture, Neptune kind of alleviates some of that extra stress because Neptune, of course, is the Pisces planet, it's the god of the ocean, and it helps us to kind of lay back a little bit and not take it all so seriously, just relax. The down part of that potentially is that if you really are on the verge of almost getting something, and the Neptune part can make it more confusing at times. So just see how you are with that. But also keep in mind that at the time of that new moon, Mercury's changing directions. Remember, the next day, it's going to go from retrograde to direct. So what happens when a planet changes directions? Either way, to direct to retrograde or retrograde to direct, it's a transition time. So let's just take Mercury, for instance. Mercury changing directions, even though it's about to go direct, the time of the actual change is difficult, like a day or two of the changing energies, like it's slowing down and then going back direct. I've made this example a million times, but I'm going to go back to it again. Back in 2000, when George Bush and Albert Gore were running against each other for president, Mercury was changing directions that night of the election. And do you remember that night? That night, the anchors went back and forth all night. Bush won, Gore won, Bush won, Gore won, Bush won, Gore won. It took weeks before they actually declared George Bush to be the winner. But that's what Mercury changing directions can be like. So that's why I always say it's good to wait a little while before making that big decision after Mercury goes back direct. So you got the new moon, which means you are going to have a feeling that things are starting, which is great. But with Mercury in switching directions and with Neptune in the air, not a good time to make a decision. You can get illusions during times like that, of what the right thing to do is. So just be patient. Don't push too much. And I know, we're all getting kind of like anxious to get moving, to get things to clear up, to have more clarity, to move forward. But, just take it easy for a little while. So after that new moon opposite Neptune, Mercury goes back direct. Then the next major event is autumn equinox, and that's on September 22nd, and that'll be at 3:32 p.m. Eastern and at 12:32 p.m. Pacific. And that's the day that dark and light are equal. Dark minutes of the day and light minutes of the day are equal at that moment of the equinox. But after that, there's more dark minutes get stronger and stronger and more. There's 2 times in the year we have the equal between dark and light. One time is the spring equinox, and the other time is autumn equinox. At the spring equinox, however, after the equinox, we get more light minutes every day, right? Because we're moving into spring and then summer. And at the autumn equinox, the dark minutes are going to increase. And that's because we're moving into autumn and then winter. So, dark. This is something I know a lot of New Age quarters have a hard time with. Like they make it, the light needs to defeat the dark. The light does not need to defeat the dark. The light cannot defeat the dark. Look at your day. Half your day is light, half your day is dark. The whole idea of light defeating dark is like doesn't make any sense. What does make sense, and I think what they really mean, is that when you're feeling really dark in a negative way, it's good to switch on feelings of light, feelings of positivity to counteract that. In that light, yeah, we can say that. But overall, the whole idea of light defeating dark doesn't make any sense. Look above me, above my head. Yin and yang equal. And that's male and female. That's yin and yang. That's dark and light. That's all the opposites are meant to be encapsulated together, though they're opposite. One doesn't try to defeat the other. They try to come together. The whole idea of one thing defeating another is why we have so many problems in the world right now. My country's better than yours. My religion is better than yours. I need to win. I need more resources than you do. I need more something than you do. I want more land. I want more power. I want more money. This is why we have wars. It's this against that. We need more of that yin yang moving forward. And we are. Even though it doesn't look like it out in the world right now, that's where we're headed. The Aquarian Age began back on winter solstice 2020. Winter solstice 2020. And on that day, Jupiter was conjunct Saturn at 0+ degrees of Aquarius. Look what was going on then. A month to 6 weeks before, we had an election where Donald Trump lost the election, Joe Biden won the election, and not too many weeks after the winter solstice, we had the January 6th insurrection when people overran our capital, invaded our capital, and we're looking to change the election that had just happened. That's around the time that Jupiter was conjunct Saturn. It's 0+ Aquarius, and in my estimation, the beginning of the Aquarian Age started. But you can see that as it starts, It's like when something positive is coming through, it's pushing in, it's rising up above. It's got to move through all of these elements that have established itself already. And that's where we're at. We're moving through the established world that is an old world now. Remember this Aquarian age starting in 2020, when the Pisces age started, which is the previous age. Each age is about 2,160 years, approximately, not exactly. The last age began, like maybe 100 years before Christ was born. That's when the Pisces age began. And now we're moving into that Aquarian age. So just think of it. It's a cycle of 2,160 years that's ending. The old paradigm ending, new paradigm being born. We got 2,100 plus years of the Aquarian age. So it's like you're not going to have a perfect world. You're never going to have a perfect world, but you're not going to have the world, the Aquarian age ideal world right away. We have to keep moving through that old world and that old paradigm. And you can see it like in big ways right now. I know you can. It's like look at the war in Ukraine. Look at the fact that there's now a something called BRICS developed in the East, which is China, Russia, Iran, India, South Africa, all banding together in an economic group. And that's to counteract the power of NATO and the Western world, the United States and Europe mainly. So this is a power struggle, everybody. I know we feel bad for people in Ukraine, and we should. It's horrible what they have to go through. But this is not so black and white. This is not the good guys are Ukraine and the Western world, and the bad guys are Russia and the people on their side. That's what each country and each culture tries to do all the time. Tries to make enemy and demonize whatever's different, whatever we're fighting against. And so, even though we don't want to be defeated or hurt or murdered in a war, of course, nobody does. At the same time, the whole idea of this war, we need to move beyond. We need to move more toward that yin yang symbol, more toward bringing opposites together. We're under a paradigm these last many years, which is survival of the fittest. And most people take survival of the fittest as me being more fit than you. We need to throw that out as how we live our lives. Now, with nuclear weapons in this world, weapons of mass destruction, survival of the fittest means, in my estimation, when we can all come together as one human family, that's us at our fittest. And that's us surviving at the fittest. So this year, next year are turning points. Pluto in the United States chart from July 4th, 1776. Then that chart, Pluto, 27 plus degrees of Capricorn. Pluto again is now at 27 plus degrees of Capricorn. That's a Pluto return. Like a lot of you know about Saturn return. So that happens like every 29 years, right? Jupiter return, that's every 12 years. Solar return once every year. Mars once every 2 years. Venus once every year and a half, approximately. Mercury every few months. Moon every 29 days, approximately. Neptune or Uranus once every 84 years, you get a return. So a lot of people are living that long nowadays, so they do get to experience a Uranus return. Neptune's like 165 years on average. You're not going to, in a lifetime, get a Neptune return. Pluto return, around 248 years. You're not going to get a Pluto return as an individual. Not now. We don't have the medical knowledge yet to have us live that long. But nevertheless, countries can have that. countries can have a Pluto return because they lived that long as a country. So United States, 1776, and now 2022, 2023, Pluto return. If you look at the United States chart, Pluto is in the United States' second house. The United States has a Sagittarius rising chart with the sun in Cancer and moon in Aquarius. And Pluto, for the first time, is back to itself now, 2022, 2023. In the United States chart, Pluto in the second house represents the military-industrial complex. Remember, the military-industrial complex was what President Eisenhower, a Republican many years ago, said, this military-industrial complex is going to take away our freedoms, take away our democracy if we don't watch it and take care of it. Well, right now, that military-industrial complex runs our world and a lot of the world. That means the military and the economy, which has turned into major corporations, run our world, run our lives. Can you not see that the size of the military with the government and the size of the corporations and the strength of those corporations, we, the individuals, which was the original intention of America, we, the individuals, no longer are running our country. I don't know if we ever did. We certainly now aren't running the country. Those major establishments run this country. Moving into an age of Aquarius, that means that, okay, let me talk about age of Aquarius. The planet Uranus was discovered in 1781. What was going on in the world? American Revolution, French Revolution, Haitian Revolution were all going on during that time. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. Pluto in 1777 was in Aquarius. It's not going to be in there very often, right? The next time Pluto was in Aquarius is this year and lasting for the next 20 years. So it's like Aquarius is about power to the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's Aquarius. That's the Aquarian age. And that's what we are moving into, though it's barely perceptible right now that is happening on any level. But it is, because that's what the age of Aquarius is. And now you understand why a lot of what's in the world now cannot continue in power and control. Because if it does, we are going to stay the way we are, which is run by big military and big corporations. So there's change in our world. And the wars that are beginning, like in Ukraine, with the power struggle. That is a power struggle, everybody. And now it's a power struggle between NATO and the West and BRICS in the East. It's going to turn out as soon as you see China go into Taiwan, which is going to happen within the next year and a half, might even happen very soon this year. So everything's going to be reshuffled. All the power structures are going to be redone so that we can live in a world of diversity within unity, of equals. Diversity within unity, of equals. This is more powerful than we are. This is what's happening. Now, what can we do as individuals? As individuals, we can go through our own personal transformation. We can move beyond our ego controls of our lives. We can move beyond our ego's need to be better than someone else, to defeat someone else as far as who's worthy. All of us are equally worthy. No one's any better than anyone else, essentially. This doesn't mean that you can't be better at your job than somebody else. I can't be better at my job than somebody else. Of course, that's going to happen. But my worth as an individual is not any more than anyone else's. That's the point. In sports, competition is great. I love sports myself. But to live our lives that way, country defeating country. And you can see all the sports analogies all the time when the politics are being talked. Like this country defeating that country. It's like we need to come together, everybody. We need to come together all over this world. And that's what will happen. But what each one of us can do is find that peace inside ourselves, find that balance inside ourselves. Now, next year, okay, first this year. So you got the autumn equinox, and that'll be followed by eclipse season coming shortly after that. Eclipse season will start at the full moon. Well, let's see. The first eclipse is on the 14th of October. That's at 21 degrees of Libra. And the second eclipse, and that's a solar eclipse, new moon. The lunar eclipse will be on the 28th. And that will be with Sun in Scorpio and Moon in Taurus. Those are the two eclipses. They're going to be powerful. Pluto goes direct, like just a few days before. And Pluto will be in. Pluto at its return, last pass of its return at 27 plus degrees of Capricorn will be a part of that solar eclipse. So it's going to be powerful. Even though it's Libra, with Pluto square that Libra solar eclipse new moon, it's going to be extremely powerful, especially since it includes Pluto being its last pass of the Pluto return in the United States chart. And the lunar eclipse on the 28th of October at 5 degrees, Taurus and Scorpio, will actually have Mars opposite Jupiter that same day. Mars in Scorpio conjunct the Sun, Jupiter in Taurus conjunct the Moon that day at the lunar eclipse, that second eclipse. That's going to be a powerful shift of energies then. Next year, and by the way, we got Deborah Knighton Tallarico coming up real soon, the next 10 minutes or so. I know a lot of you are looking forward to that. So let me just finish up what I've got to say today. So next year is going to be a big shift and change year as far as the changing of ages. I was looking at 1941 and looking at 2024. They have so many similarities. 1941, on December 7th, is when the United States got into the Second World War. And that's because Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, from the United States. That brought the United States into it, starting with Japan and then moving into Germany later. So what's going on in 2024? Well, in 2024, Jupiter will make conjunction with Uranus in Taurus in the 20 degrees, like 22 degrees of Taurus. The last time that happened was in 1941. Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus. That was the last time it happened. And that was at 20-some degrees. And both of those, Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Taurus, are square the United States moon in Aquarius. The moon in Aquarius, that's where all these values of the United States are in the Constitution. That's where all those values are there of the people, by the people, for the people. It's there. The moon in Aquarius. The moon is your inner values. That's the United States inner values, is those Aquarian values. So that's one thing that's the same. When that Jupiter conjunct Uranus happens, also, there'll be a solar eclipse, new moon in Aries. Back in 1941, there was a solar eclipse in Aries. In 1941, the same year as Jupiter was conjunct Uranus in Taurus, square the United States moon. The other big thing that happened was in October of 1941, Jupiter stopped and changed directions from direct to retrograde at 21 degrees of Gemini. 21 degrees of Gemini in the United States chart is its Mars. I've been tracking wars and things that have happened with the United States through the years, other things that have happened that are like that. And something was conjunct the United States Mars during those times. So back then in 1941, right before the United States got in the war, Jupiter was at 21 degrees of Gemini. This year in October, the same month, Jupiter will change directions at 21 degrees of Gemini. This is the first time that happened that Jupiter changed directions at 21 degrees of Gemini since 1941. Does this mean we're looking to get into a world war? Not for sure. But the warning signs are all there that something is happening again around being taken into a world war. And you can see what's going on in the world now. It's not that far-fetched to imagine that that's what's going to happen. What can we do? We can work on our consciousness. Work on that consciousness that's not about you being better or me being better or any kind of ego inflation or deflation. If you think that you're worse than everyone else, you're playing into the same game. Because you're playing into a game that somebody's better than somebody. If you're worse or better than everybody else, you're still in an ego game that the new consciousness won't hold. But it will hold. We're all together as one family. We're all together as one family. Each one of us different. Each culture different, each nation different, each person different. But at the same time, all one human family. This is what we need to move toward to make this world okay. All one family. You know, you're in families. We have dysfunctional families, and people may have arguments with each other, but they don't go killing each other. They don't go defeating each other in the same way that happens out in the world. So remember, the age of Aquarius is about equals. It's about we the people, but it's also about diversity within unity. And that's what I'm talking about the family all coming together, unity. We're all different and we accept the differences, but within those differences, we find that which links us all together. And there's plenty that links us all together as humans. As humans, we have many things in common with one another, regardless of where we live. And those things we need to remind ourselves of and come together as one family. Now, here's a little something I want to throw in there. Have you noticed that more and more there is recognition from a mainstream place of ETs, of UFOs, what do they call them? UAPs now. UAPs, UFOs, ETs. More and more recognition that this exists. Somehow, in my estimation, this is all a part of this changing of ages. This is all a part of us coming together as one family here on Earth. So remember, we're moving into a wonderful place, but we're going to need to go through a little bit of a mess to get there. In your own personal lives, I know you've done that. Like a person can have been in their old chapter in their life for a long period of time and don't know how to extricate themselves from the old chapter. They're holding on for dear life because it's not comfortable exactly, but that which is familiar has a kind of a comfort to it, if you know what I mean. And so the people aren't leaving the old chapter of their lives. So something happens. Someone cheats on you in your marriage and your marriage ends. It's horrible what you have to go through on so many levels. But yet you come out of it realizing that you're in a whole new chapter of your life, and that chapter turns out to be better. This is what transformation can be. Transformation can be, I'm ending an old cycle of my life that it's time for it to end. But the process of transitioning from the old to the new can be really challenging and at times very painful. So many people I talk to now are experiencing being caught in between an old chapter. Are you one of those? Being caught out of an old chapter of their lives and going into a new chapter. They've let go to a large extent the old chapter. They don't have a big enough clue as to what the new chapter is going to be, or even if they have a clue, it's not forming yet. So a lot of people are sitting in their own individual lives in that place, out with the old chapter and in with the new chapter. And that's exactly where our world is at right now. So, everybody, is there anything else that I need to say? No, I don't think so. I think I said all I need to say today. So remember, Mercury going direct on the 15th, new moon in Virgo on the 14th, right around the same time. Autumn equinox on the 22nd. Full moon in Aries on the, I didn't think I said that one, full moon in Aries on the 29th of September. And that one will be the actual beginning of the eclipse season, because the next lunation after that will be the solar eclipse new moon in Libra, followed by the lunar eclipse full moon in Taurus. So that 9/29, September 29, just a week after the actual autumn equinox, will be the beginning of eclipse season. So we're right on the verge of eclipse season beginning. And eclipse season means, and I'll talk more about it as we go further, eclipse season always means that we're shifting and we're moving into a transformational time period where we move forward, where events come up, or things inside of ourselves come up that get us to let go of the old and move forward into the new. So if you've been waiting for things to move forward into the new chapter a little bit more, the eclipse season could very well be that time when that starts happening. Not now at Mercury retrograde. Be patient. The time is coming. And with that, the time has come for Deborah Knighton Tallarico to take the stage here. Let me bring her on. Hi, Deborah.
Hello, Leo.
Recording in progress.
Whoops, sorry about that. Hey, everybody. I'm just recording on my Zoom, so that's what that was. So thanks, Leo, for your wonderful. And hi, Judy Ann. She just said hi, Deborah. Thank you for that wonderful synopsis of what's going on right now, and it really resonates with me. There's so much going on beneath the surface.
Oh my God, that's it. So much going on beneath the surface. By the way, let me also say hi to Judy Ann, and Christine is said hi to us too. So, and now I'm going to go. I'll see you at the end, Deb.
Okay.
We'll connect at the end. Okay.
That sounds really good. So I'll leave a couple of minutes at the end.
That sounds good. See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
So, hello, everyone. It's been quite a while since we've been here with you all because of our travels and recovering from our vacation. So, anyway, I wanted to start today with us just tuning into our hearts. And this chakra bowl that I'm playing is the heart chakra. And you'll know why I want us to sink in and focus in on our heart today for what I'm going to share with you. So just take a moment to take some really deep breaths. And just bring your awareness into your heart center. Inside your heart are the eternal flames of your soul. Just breathe into those sacred flames, those flames of your Holy Spirit. Just feel the energy of your heart. You may even want to place a hand on your heart. And then just become aware of the energy of Mother Earth beneath you and the vast universe above and all around you, with your heart as the sacred center. And just become aware of a sun within your heart, a golden sun, just like the sun of our solar system. And just really feel that inner sun through those flames igniting and expanding within your heart. This is some of the energy now of the new cycle of Venus, which I'm going to share about today, which I'm so excited to share about. So just as I share today, just feel your focus in your heart and on that inner fire, that inner light, that inner sun within you. So as many of you know, most likely from following Leo and myself, that on September 3rd, Venus went direct after being retrograde for over 40 days. Venus went retrograde on July 22nd. And when Venus went retrograde, it brought us through a deep period of inner reflection on our relationships. And when I say relationships, it's not only our relationships with others, but it's also our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with the earth, with the divine, and with all beings and all life forms. So we went through this time of Venus retrograde. And I don't know about any of you, but for me, I had old relationships coming back to me in my dreams, like old partners of mine, and just old feelings, old emotions coming to the surface. That's what happens during Venus retrograde often, just as that can also happen during Mercury retrograde, like old memories from the past come back. And for a while, for a week or two, we had both of them retrograde at the same time. So a lot of the past coming back. The other part of Venus retrograde is that from the perspective of the cycle of Venus, which is a 19-month cycle, Leo mentioned earlier, this 19-month cycle has different parts of the cycle. And when Venus goes retrograde, the sign it goes retrograde in, it stays in for a very long time because it's in that sign before Venus goes retrograde. Then Venus goes retrograde, and then it takes a really long time for it to go back, to go direct, and then to go back into the next sign. So it's like 3 or 4 months, Venus has been in Leo. And so at that time, right when Venus went retrograde, Venus began transforming into a new energy and into the energy of Leo. And the last Venus cycle, the last Venus retrograde, was with Venus in Capricorn. And so that began that cycle of 19 months. And the main overlighting energy was the Capricorn energy, which was the energy of the wise woman, wise man, the ancestral realm, that kind of energy. And so when Venus entered Leo and then went retrograde, Venus began to shift and change and metamorphosize into the new goddess energy for the next 19-month cycle. So she began that process when Venus went retrograde. And then on August 19th, she began the whole new cycle. Even though Venus was still retrograde, Venus rose for the first time in the morning sky. So that began the new cycle. So what I want to talk about today is just a little bit more about this new cycle. So, and also I want to especially encourage all of you to go outside in the morning, early morning, to see Venus in the morning sky, and especially the next few days when the Venus and the moon join together for the first gateway of Venus. And I'm going to say more about that. So this morning I woke up extra early, and I was like, I peeked outside and I could see Venus. So I went outside. Leo was still sleeping, and I could see the moon, the crescent waning moon, pretty high up in the sky. She had risen a while before, and Venus underneath, bright as could be. And then parallel to that on the right side was Sirius, Orion above, and Sirius. They were rising also at the same time, and it was just really beautiful. Of course, it's not as clear as when it's dark, but it because the sun was getting closer to rising. So, to see Venus in the morning sky, you need to go out before dawn, before the sun rises, and it's best when the sky is still darker. So, I went out at like 4:30, and between 4:30 and 5:30, I went out a couple times this morning to see that. And the next few days, you're going to see Venus and the moon, the waning crescent moon, getting closer and closer to each other. And then the moon will be below Venus after the conjunction, which was going to be on Monday at 12:32 p.m. Pacific time. So that'd be 3:32 p.m. Eastern time. And that's considered the first gate in the 19-month cycle of Venus. I'll say a little bit about that in a moment. But what I wanted to talk about especially, and to have us focus on as this new cycle has begun, and as we're getting ready for the first gateway, the first conjunction of the waning crescent moon and Venus, which happens every month, until Venus goes into the underworld when she joins with the sun, and then she rises in the evening sky and joins with the waxing crescent moon. And that's the ascent journey. So I'm just going to get something to drink for a second. So I've been really sitting deeply with and reflecting deeply, dreaming about Leo energy. And I remembered, I don't know, a few months ago, about a dream I had had last year, the year before, of the symbol of the sun. It was a circle, the dot in the center. And in the dream, I was teaching about it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. And I've been contemplating, reflecting on the meaning of this symbol, why it came into my dreams. It was bringing me into this new energy of Leo. So that symbol with the circle and the dot in the center is actually the astrological glyph for the sun. Interestingly, it is also the symbol and sign for the self that Jung wrote about. I went to a website about Jung and the self, and there was the symbol. And it's about the sun, the self. So it's got very deep layers to it. So, as we know, if we focus on the sun, the planet, or not the planet, but our sun, it's not really a planet, that is at the center of our galaxy, right? And think about the sun. It's one of the brightest in our universe, and the planets revolve around it. So it's the center focus, with the planets revolving around it, right? And that speaks a lot to the energy of Leo. A lot of people think of Leo as, liking to be the center of attention, to have others gathering around them, and shining brightly like the sun. That's very much the energy of Leo. And so Leo is oversold by the sun, and it's also connected to our heart. So our heart is the center. That's why I did that little meditation at the beginning. Our heart is the center between the earth and the universe. It is our center point. And it is the place of our self, our authentic self. And Jung wrote about the self as that center. Also, when you look at that, you think about the ego. So the ego is not the self. The self is something much greater. It connects us to our divine self, our soul. And the ego is also there. So a lot of this Venus cycle for the next 19 months, according to my own inner reflections, is going to be a deep time of transformation and transmutation of our inner sun, and a time to really work through any wounds we might have to our sense of self, any wounds to our sense of authenticity, to our self-esteem, our self-confidence. So we're going to be called, even if you didn't know about this cycle of Venus consciously, you would be called to do this work. And I notice that with my clients when planetary movements are happening or cycles and changes. I can see the themes emerging in them, what they bring up in their sessions. So this is going to be a time to really transmute, transform, alchemize. So taking alchemy, right, is taking something that's painful or, an irritation, just like a pearl in a shell, and it's working with it and alchemizing it until it becomes this beautiful gem. And that's what we're going to be doing with our hearts over this time, and our egos, really working with that so that our lives are no longer run by our ego. We have our ego and we're aware of our ego, but it doesn't run our lives. But what does run our life is our deeper inner self, our inner sun, that is our light and love too. So think about that. Just reflect on that within yourself right now. So the journey of healing. So during this 19-month cycle, we're going to be going through this journey to heal our self-worth, our self-love. And so when Venus goes through her 19-month cycle, it is so connected to and even in ancient times, they connected the ancient goddess Inanna of ancient Sumer with the cycle of Venus. Okay, so if you study the myth, or the story, not myth, but the story of Inanna, she consciously chooses to go to the underworld, and she passes through 7 gates. And then she reaches the underworld where she faces her dark sister, her shadow side, and she's killed to her old self. And then she's reborn again, and she rises up then through the gateways again to be crowned queen of heaven and earth. So when she starts her journey, she's just the queen of heaven. She hasn't gone through that deeper soul initiation of descending and going down into the earth, into the underworld, and facing her shadow. And this is like a psychological process that we go through often, many times in our lives, and through different transits that we have in our chart, like if we have a Pluto transit or something like that. And some of us, like me, have Pluto aspecting our sun. So that's kind of something that we go through a lot in our life. I know I can attest to that for myself. So during this time of the descent, so on this Monday, the 11th, when Venus and Moon come together for their first conjunction in this new cycle, that first gateway is the crown chakra gateway in the descent of Inanna. And each month, when the Moon and Venus join together, the waning Moon and Venus in the eastern sky before sunrise, there's a gateway that we go through of the chakras. And so this is an opportunity. Now there's going to be probably 8, most likely 7 or 8 gateways. So there's an extra one, which includes the Earth star. So we're going to be, at each gateway, we're going to be clearing old energies, releasing old energies, old wounds of our ego that are connected with each of the particular energies of the chakras. So we're going to have this opportunity to clear our self, all the old programming that we've received around our self-worth, our value, our purpose as a soul, shining our inner light, being true to who we really are as an authentic being, as a divine light source. Because so many of us, and I know that I'll speak for myself, my whole life, this life has been a journey to learn self-love and to learn to appreciate and love and value myself. And I'm still on that journey with all of you. So, and I just am very excited about this cycle. The first Leo Venus cycle I've been conscious of since I started studying and going through this process 5 years ago in my wonderful class with Venus Alchemy. I'm excited about this because it's going to be such an opportunity for such profound healing. And it's also a time for us, we're going to be healing our inner child, because our inner child is very much often we can feel that in our hearts. We all have wounds to our inner child that we've been carrying that have affected our self-confidence, our feelings of self-worth, our feelings of shining in the world and being who we really are. How many of us have developed a false self or an false ego self that's not really who we are? So this is going to be a profound time to do this inner work, deep inner work of clearing all the debris, all the distortions, all the old beliefs, all the old programmings from our chakras. And then we'll go into the underworld with Venus when she gets purified by the sun. And we have an ego purification and transformation, a death of our old self, our old self-image, so that we can be reborn as our more authentic self. And then as Venus comes up the gateways in her ascent in the evening sky, we're going to be reclaiming our self-love, all the things we gave away in our lifetime around our self-worth, our essence. And so we'll be working a lot with our inner child and reclaiming the joy and playfulness of our inner child. And I believe we're going to be reclaiming our divine child, our divine son self. And so it's going to be a tremendous time. And another part of this is when you think about this, about Leo and the sun, the caricature of Leo is the lion. And if you think about the lion, right? Lion-hearted, courage. I think about the lion in the Wizard of Oz, who was cowardly and needed courage. And so it's a time of building tremendous strength inside of ourselves. But first we have to clear all the old programmings, we have to let our old self, our old identities that aren't aligned with our true self, we have to let those kind of drop away and alchemize and transform and transmute so we can be reborn again and come into our full strength and sovereignty. You can't really come into your sovereignty and sit on your divine throne until you have gone through that process of that alchemical process of shedding the old, releasing the old programming, and truly embracing and loving your authentic self and that divine child within you and all your natural gifts. And when you've reclaimed those and you've developed and grounded self-love, self-respect, self-reverence, self-worth, self-belief, all those things, self-confidence, then it's much easier to sit on your own inner sovereign throne, to have boundaries, to shine your light, not from your ego, no more from the ego, shining your light from your true self and essence. And yes, being able to shine, to find your passion, the passion of your heart, the joy of your heart, and living that in the world. What an amazing place our earth is going to be in the new earth and golden age, when all of us have that deep, deep self love and respect and self honoring, and we can shine our light, not to overpower anyone else, not in our ego, but as part of the greater community in the Aquarian age. Remember, Aquarius is opposite Leo, right? So we take our shining self, and there's always that sacred balance whenever anything is in a sign. The opposite is also important. So we take our shining self to be part of a greater human family where we're all shining our divine, unique light and gifts. So, and of course, from the goddess perspective, Sekhmet is one of the main goddesses. She's the lion-headed goddess, the fiery goddess. And there's many solar goddesses too in the Egyptian pantheon: Isis, Hathor. There's others, and then there's many other solar goddesses that are going to be with us on this journey. And if you look at the tarot, the Queen of Wands is very much the energy of Leo, the Leo goddess. And here's two depictions of the Queen of Wands. And she's always shown with a lion or lioness. And there's a panther with her too. And that's more the feminine, to help alchemize the old energies. And also the Strength card in the tarot, taming the lion. So it's taming our the lower nature of our ego, so we can live in our higher self and attain self-mastery. And that's a lot of what this cycle is about too, is attaining self-mastery over our ego and our shadow side. And then also, of course, the sun in the tarot. And what I always love is, you can't really see on this card, but the sun card is almost always depicted with this little child. So the sun is that energy of really reclaiming our sunlight, our bright divine child self. And I leave you with that for now. I would like to say that I'm going to be doing a ceremony this Monday. You're welcome to join me. If you're interested, you can reach out to me at Elelia, Elia, at Gaia Sophia, templeoftheheart.com. You can also go to my Facebook page and sign up for this ceremony, which is going to be Monday during the exact conjunction of the moon and Venus. So I look forward to seeing you there if your heart is guided. You can also just reach me there. Or if you forget that, just go to my website, GaiaSophiaTempleoftheHeart.com. The ceremony isn't there, but you can find ways to reach me if you're interested. And you can also always sign up for our newsletter. Leo and I, to sign up for a newsletter, you have to go to my website right now until Spiritual Renaissance website is resurrected. So, and please reach out to me at any time. I would love to connect, and especially around these deep planetary cycles and initiations, and also personal soul initiations. Okay, thank you so much, everybody.
That was great, Deborah. Thanks a lot. There's just one thing I'd like to ask you. The legend, some of the legends say that Pluto pulled Inanna down in the underworld. And what you said today was that she chose to go to the underworld.
Oh, that's Persephone. Persephone gets pulled to the underworld by Hades.
Okay.
Inanna makes a conscious choice to go to the underworld. She prepares greatly to go to the underworld to meet her sister, her other sister, her
Okay,
sister.
well that's a big difference. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, and
So,
Leo, don't forget Leo's Leo's going to be on a show tomorrow.
oh yeah, how do they get there?
Go to our Facebook pages. I know it's already 1 o'clock. We're at the 1 hour point, but if you want, you can go to Leo's or my Facebook pages, and you can get information, and or sign up for our newsletter because it'll be in our newsletter, and you can do
Okay,
that on my website.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll be back. We'll be back in 2 weeks. In 3 weeks, then we've got Dennis Harness, who's an excellent Vedic astrologer. He's going to be my guest on the 30th. But I do plan on having a show that we do on the 23rd also. So
Yeah,
there it all is.
to honor
Yeah,
the
right,
equinox.
exactly. To honor the
Yeah.
equinox.
Thank you all so much. All our love.
Take care,
Many
everybody.
blessings. Bye, everyone.
Bye.